This is Dakota Spotlight Season 3, The House on Sweet and 7th. I'm James Wallner. This podcast contains content that some may find disturbing. Discretion is advised. On Saturday morning at 8:45 a.m., Detective Bob Haas had a tough assignment. He was headed to attend the autopsies of Gordon and Barbara Erickstad.
They're not pleasant things to be at, but they have a purpose and they fulfill a need that we have. We had some concerns about the broken knife and stuff, and the knife that was broken, the blade snapped in half, but if we look at the end that had the point on it, we noticed that there was a notch missing out of that knife. And we didn't know what happened to that. Well, during the autopsy of Mr. Erickstad, the notch was located in the back of his skull. I think it was Dr. Mazzell at the time was a coroner. He took it out and he placed it on the knife that was missing the piece, and it fit perfectly. So we knew at that time that it answered that question for us.
Barbara was stabbed 10 times around her head and neck area, most of these deep incisions. She was also stabbed 9 times in her back and 3 times in her arms. Gordon had been stabbed 13 times around his head and neck, 8 times in his arms, once in his right shoulder, and once in the chest. Neither victim had any trace of alcohol or illegal drugs in their system. While the autopsy was taking place, back at the police department, it was all hands on deck that weekend. Phone calls and tips were streaming in, additional interviews were conducted, and officers were working on tracking the 2 suspects. The Erickstad's credit cards were missing. Detective Roger Becker was assigned to call the Visa credit card company and Amico Credit to see if they could get a list of recent charges. At 9:18 a.m., Detective Gary Malo took a call. A Mrs. Knutson was on the line. She said her son had been told by some other kid that he had been told by Robert and Brian that, quote, something big was going to happen, unquote. And calls kept coming in. A clerk at Pony Express gas station had seen the pictures of the fugitives on the news. She called in to say that she remembered Brian and Robert coming into the gas station on Wednesday. Then Pam Werner from East Sweet Avenue came back into the police station, adamant that her daughter Amy needed to be put in the psych ward. 3 officers went with Pam to East Sweet Avenue to retrieve her daughter. The state's attorney's office had decided to cite Ryan Werner and his sister Amy, along with Misty Jones, for hindering a law enforcement investigation. Teresa Porter of the Police Youth Bureau was called in to help with all of this, and she was in for a frustrating day. It was a tedious process, but Amy was ultimately entered into the psych ward. But then, just 2 hours later, her mother Pam checked her out again, now claiming everything was just fine. Teresa Porter spoke with Pam Werner and asked her why she had done this. Pam told her that Amy promised that she was fine. Teresa Porter then questioned Pam about her coming into the police department the night before at 4 a.m., fearing for her own life. Was that no longer a problem? Pam's response was, "Yeah, but I have my boyfriend here with me." When Ryan Werner was informed that he would be cited, he became somewhat violent and was handcuffed. Several officers assisted in getting Ryan restrained and then finally calmed down. Teresa Porter also assisted with issuing a citation to Misty Jones. Aside from these charges, for hindering an investigation, neither Misty Jones or Ryan Werner or anyone other than Brian Erickstad and Robert Lawrence were ever charged for anything related to these homicides. Another interview performed that weekend was a second interview with 17-year-old Rick Storhaug, Misty Jones' boyfriend and Brian Erickstad's longtime friend. This interview was conducted by Detective Steve Lundin. Rick Storhaug's parents were also present. When watching or listening to this interview, it's apparent that Detective Lundin is growing a little weary of all the games these teenagers are playing. Sure, some of that might be fatigue, but it seems more likely that his weariness just mirrors the frustration that the rest of the team is feeling. Of course, at the time, nobody knew that in a few months they would still be shaking their heads, baffled by the monumental level of disrespect that some of these young people offered the victims and their families.
Okay, just to get started, like I was telling your dad, at this point right now, you're still not in any trouble, okay?
Rick Storhaug proves to be one of the most frustrating of witnesses. Watching the video, his whole demeanor and body language pretty much just screams, I really can't be bothered with any of this. He sits slouched in his chair, baseball cap turned around backwards. His right elbow rests on the arm of his chair, and he sometimes props his cheek against his open palm as if he's simply bored by it all. Detective Lundin must repeatedly remind Rick that they are talking about a double homicide, and that a double homicide is a very serious thing.
I mean, you know how serious this is, what we're dealing with now, okay? Yeah. This isn't a car break-in, this isn't a burglary or anything like that. There's 2 people dead, and I am not going to tolerate being lied to if you have some more information, okay? And I know you do, all right? So I want you to be honest with me. And tell me exactly what you know, because even if you didn't know it the last time I talked to you, I know that all you guys have been talking about this together, okay? We need to get to the bottom of what information you know, not only for the conclusion of the investigation.
I'm still a little bit uncertain about Misty's boyfriend, Rick Storhaug, and his role. He had a lot of information. And I remember when he was being interviewed, he would never tell who told him what.
You know, number one, I can respect your loyalty to each other. You know, it's nice that you guys are that close friends with, you know, your whole group is pretty tight. But I wish I could get into your guys' heads that this is something far more serious than loyalty to friends, okay? You know, and I just wish you guys could understand that, you know, whoever was responsible, they have to take responsibility for it, okay? And it's not fair that you guys all have to carry around this burden of knowing what happened and trying to protect each other and stuff like that, because in the end it's going to backfire on everybody.
But it seemed like he knew details that only he could know if he was there, if he'd been there, if he had participated in some way.
I need you to remember what you heard, okay? And I need you to remember who you heard it from and what they said, because this isn't like any everyday conversation. You know, I just can't buy that you can't remember what you've heard yet.
Well, what I've heard from who? No, you know, I remember like.
He claims to have been told bits and pieces of information from half a dozen sources or more.
This is never going to happen to you in your lifetime again, that somebody you know is involved in killing their parents.
But it's like, I don't remember who told me stuff. You know, I know somebody told me that Ryan was there. I don't remember who it was. It could have been DJ, it could have been Buddy, it could have been Christy, it could have been Candy, it could have been Amy, it could have been Michelle. God only knows who it was because I talked to everybody.
But he's one I never really felt we got the full truth out of.
Another thing Rick Storhaug never seemed to be able to remember was anyone's last name. Again, it seemed he really just couldn't be bothered by it all.
Yeah, Bill, the one that's downstairs.
Okay. You don't know his last name?
No, I don't really pay attention to the last name,
What's Bill's last name?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea what his last name is.
DJ Enzi?
I don't know his last name. I don't really know anybody's last name, so.
At one point, Rick Storhaug asks the detective if he should tell him that Santa Claus murdered the Erickstads, if that's what he's heard.
Okay. So you let the judge Santa Claus killed them, and I told you that. You want to hear everything?
You let the judge decide what's hearsay and what isn't, okay? I'm telling you, the state's attorney isn't playing games with this. And if you think they are, just ask some of your friends, because some of them have already been charged.
Yeah, I know.
All right?
Well, yeah.
Because this is a double homicide. This is not something that's just a...
Well, then they're in Canada and they're in Mexico. I've heard both of those so far.
Well, first let's cover what happened, okay? And what you've heard
what I've heard happened
at the Erickstad's house, all right?
Start
from the beginning back to Wednesday night, okay?
Wednesday night? Like,
what were you guys doing on Wednesday night?
Detective Lundin wouldn't quite get the full story from Rick about what happened Wednesday night and Thursday, but perhaps we should look at that now. The timeline leading up to the murders is a fuzzy timeline. The case files and evidence compiled by Sergeant Haas and others consist of 5 indexed spiral binders and many hours of recorded interviews. It's packed with documentation and facts. I've read every single page of this, and despite that, parts of the timeline are difficult to understand. Many of those associated with the house on East Sweet Avenue resisted cooperating with the police and offered them only fragments of information. The only way to assemble the timeline from Wednesday afternoon through the murders and all through the following day was to reassemble it from those partial pieces of information, like pieces of a puzzle. And, as Lloyd Halverson suggested to me, it wasn't an easy chore.
It's not a 500-piece puzzle, or this is a puzzle with thousands of pieces.
If there were cliques within this group of kids, it's not very evident. Everyone hung out with everyone at different times. It seemed that no 4 people were ever in the same car twice in a row. Don't worry if you don't follow every single step in this timeline, especially the earlier part of Wednesday, September 16th. You will understand the most important parts, and really, it doesn't really matter. For example, who went to McDonald's, if it was Amy and Rick and Dave, or if it was Amy and Robert and a guy named DJ and his brother Buddy and some guy named Bill. It doesn't really matter. Nevertheless, I want to share some of those events with you too, because it simply gives us some insight, a sneak peek into their daily lives, and what was happening just a few hours before the Erickstads were killed. It's Wednesday, mid to late afternoon, about 12 hours before the murders. 6 of the guys associated with the house on East Sweet decide to get a 30-pack of beer from a liquor store in Mandan and then go swimming in the Heart River at a place they call the Rapids.
Where'd you go swimming? I didn't swim, but everybody else did. It was down at the Rapids, right by YCC, a little swimming spot, drinking, whatever, where everybody parties at.
This is the voice of David Pankowski, one of the 2 runaways staying at the house at the time. He's being interviewed by Teresa Porter and Detective Steve Syseski just a few days after the homicides.
It was me, Robert, Brian, Rick, and Buddy and DJ, the brothers.
So you guys all left together in one vehicle?
No, we were in 2 vehicles. Rick's car and Buddy's.
After some drinking and swimming, they leave the river in 2 cars at about 6:45 p.m.
We went to West Central and to pick up Misty's car.
They need to borrow Misty's little red car because that night a whole bunch of them have a plan to crash Misty's Alcoholic Anonymous meeting at 8 p.m. They think it'll be extra fun to be drunk when they show up. There's so many people going they need 3 cars, so they need to borrow Misty's.
Who picked that up there? Who was driving?
Robert.
Had that been prearranged then with Misty or something?
Get her car, and I don't know why, to drive to the AA meeting, I guess, because there's so many people going.
While Robert Lawrence picks up Misty's car, Rick Storhaug takes Brian Erickstad and his girlfriend Amy Werner down to the Erickstad residence to pick up some of Brian's belongings. Brian is moving in with Amy into her downstairs bedroom on East Sweet Avenue. As they're leaving the home on Laredo Drive, Brian's parents show up, and his mother Barbara sends him off with a plate of cookies. About 7 hours later, she will be killed.
You guys were at Brian's house around 7:45 or 7:30?
7:30, because AA started at 8.
Okay.
So like 7:30, 7:45. I left at 7:45.
After that, they all drive in 3 cars to Misty's Alcoholic Anonymous meeting.
Rick had a carload. They had a carload. Bill went. Everybody, I can't remember exactly who went, but a lot of people went.
But 3 of them don't go inside.
It was me and that Mike kid and Michelle. We went to this girl's house to visit while they were in there. And then
Dave is on the run, after all, and doesn't want to be seen. Instead, they go to visit a friend of Michelle's who's pregnant. They want to see if she's had her baby yet.
Okay, you guys didn't go to the AA meeting?
No, not me, Mike, or Michelle.
Everyone else goes into the 8 p.m. AA meeting, evidently while intoxicated.
Why did they do this? Just they thought it would be a funny thing to do, is get drunk and go to AA meeting?
Yeah.
During that AA meeting, Robert Lawrence decides it would be funny to pretend he's illiterate and cause a little ruckus, at which point the crew from East Sweet Avenue all leave. Everyone except Misty, who's required to be there by law.
Supposedly it came around to him when he was supposed to read out of the big book. And he said, I can't read. And said he was embarrassed or something and left, and then everybody got up after him and left.
I don't know if Robert Lawrence had any difficulty reading at the time, but he was not illiterate. I have read many letters he wrote to Misty and others while he was in jail awaiting trial. In a later episode, we'll take a look at some of those somewhat bizarre letters. After the AA meeting, the gang splits up into 3 groups. Some go back to the house, while others commit small crimes. Just another day in the capital city of Bismarck, North Dakota. Just before 9 p.m., runaway Dave, Robert Lawrence, a kid named Buddy, and possibly a 4th person go to J.C. Penney's. The crew have been shoplifting for weeks and have a simple plan in place. You walk in, pick up some clothes, and pretty much head straight to the register and say you want to return them. Then you keep the cash. Somehow, they manage this without a receipt.
Okay, first I went in there and I grabbed a pair of Arizonas and I took them up and I got my money back.
On the way out, Dave steals a shirt.
That was the boss shirt or sweater
That everybody wore.
you were talking about that Misty wore later.
No, Misty didn't wear that. She wore my boss shirt.
Candy.
Yeah.
Candy had on later.
And then Ryan wore it the next day, yeah.
None of these 3 kids are siblings, but they share clothing, nevertheless, like one big happy family. It's now 9 p.m., about 6 hours before the crime. After shoplifting, someone needs to pick up Misty, who's without her car, and is just finishing up at the AA meeting. This was possibly Dave and Robert when they hit a liquor store.
There was a lot of alcohol that night.
Was there?
More than 3 trips to get alcohol.
Dave has money now after shoplifting. Misty has money too. At some point she has Robert buy 3 cases of beer. Then they all head back to the mothership, the house on East Sweet. But the crew are still not done running around for the evening.
Me, Michelle, Rick, and Buddy went to McDonald's. That's important. We got food. I bought them food.
Dave Pankowski pays at McDonald's with his shoplifting money, then back to Sweet Avenue. 5 hours before the crime, Rick Storhaug leaves East Sweet again, this time with his girlfriend Misty and Brian and Robert. They take Misty's car to get Tylenol for Michelle Werner, who has a headache. Brian Erickstad walks into the Kirkwood Amoco gas station and shoplifts the Tylenol. Finally, sometime around 10:30 p.m., the crews start to settle down a bit. Less driving around, more drinking, more smoking. Dave the runaway and Candy sit outdoors on a couch by the garage next to A&B parking lot. They're enjoying the stars and a last hint of summer. The others are downstairs in Ryan's big bedroom, or Amy's bedroom, or Michelle's bedroom. 4 hours before the crime, Brian and Robert want some marijuana. They go over to a bar named Buck's to try to score some. They come back empty-handed. Their friend Buddy scores them a 1/4 ounce of weed instead. They can pay him back another day, he says. Buddy, Robert, and Brian smoke the marijuana in Michelle's bedroom. The little house on the corner of Sweet and 7th is oozing in its comfort zone now, purring along warm, soft, and fuzzy, its inhabitants comfortably numb. This is business as usual here, after dark, on a school night, with parents and adults just upstairs. One thing is a little different, though. Brian and Robert are being secretive. They hole up in Michelle's bedroom with Rick Storhaug and ask to be left alone. This is not business as usual. All these friends are like family, after all. They share so much. They share beds and cars. They share beer and clothing. Secrets are not part of the arrangement. Michelle and Amy's brother, Ryan, feels left out and rejected. He retreats to his bedroom, where he sits alone and sulks. At some point, Robert Lawrence approaches Ryan and asks him what's wrong. This is Ryan Werner again, being interviewed by the police.
Late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, we started talking about it.
Is that in your room?
No, I was in my room sitting there because I was thinking about something, and I was just thinking because I was bored, sitting on the corner of my bed, and they were talking for about 20 minutes, and then I was dozing off kind of, and then Robert came and goes, "What's wrong with you?" I go, "Nothing, I'm just tired and bored." He's like, "Well, I'm going to tell you something, I don't want you to get in trouble for it." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "We're going to go kill Brian's parents tonight." And then I just sat there, I'm like, "Yeah, right, you guys are drunk."
According to Ryan Werner, Brian Erickstad's motive is money.
Yeah, he said that if he killed his parents, that he'd get the house, he'd get life insurance for both of them, he'd get the lake cabin, and he'd get 2 vehicles.
Robert Lawrence had a different motive to kill, apparently for some time. He just wanted to know what it would feel like to kill someone.
Robert, though, did he ever, when you were with him, did he ever express or say something to the effect that he would kill someone?
Yeah, he said he always wanted to know how it felt to kill somebody.
Okay.
He said he always wanted to kill somebody, actually.
Well, what would be, I mean, how would this come up?
That he'd say it?
Yeah.
I don't know, he'd see like an Indian or a black guy or something. He goes, I just want to know how it feels to kill somebody. He goes, I'm going to kill somebody one of these days.
Okay.
If you didn't quite catch that, Ryan said when Robert would see an Indian or a black guy, he would say, I just wonder what it would feel like to kill someone. I'm going to kill someone one of these days.
Things that I can remember, I know that there was a lot of prejudice.
This is Carol Lander speaking about Robert and Brian. She was one of the runaways, and she was there at the house on Sweet Avenue on the night of the murders. She slept in Ryan's room on a hide-a-bed. She spoke with me over the phone from federal prison, where she is currently serving 10 years for drug-related crimes. She prefers to be called Cassie. And we'll get back to the events of Wednesday night in just a moment. In fact, Cassie will help us with that, too.
They didn't like people of color or anything like that, and they talked about it a lot, and I was always uncomfortable. Robert, he had this very strong personality. I don't quite know what other way to describe him. Like, it was very, I don't know, to me he was scary. Like, I didn't like him. There was something about him that just gave me the chills or the creepy crawlies or stuff like that. So I didn't care for him, but it seemed like, everybody was just kind of drawn to him, and maybe it was because he was older than all of us. Like, he was the oldest one there. All of us were 17, 18, 19, like in that age range. So it was kind of weird that, he's 27 and hanging out with all of us. Buying alcohol, whatever, like, let's do this, let's do that. It was like his idea for a lot of things, and so everybody just kind of followed along.
Cassie also remembers Robert randomly assaulting a black man on Main Street in Bismarck. This assault took place on the Sunday before the murders. Robert injured his hand during this assault and went to the hospital.
We were driving up and down Main Street in Bismarck, and there happened to be a black guy standing there, and he started cussing at him. We were following, there was a bunch of us girls in a car that was following them, and they pulled around the corner, and the guy was walking down that way, and Robert jumped out and started beating the crap out of this guy, and I just remember everybody screaming and hollering, and his girlfriend going to try to pull him off, and him saying, you guys leave, and everybody getting in the vehicle and leaving, and I just remember looking out the back window and just being scared because he was still there. And I was like, oh my God, and the guy was bloody, and it was terrible, but my stomach was so sick that I couldn't do anything. Yeah, and I was frightened.
I asked Cassie to share her memories of that evening, September 16th, 1998, in the little house on East Suite.
Well, we were all partying. Everybody was having a good time, and then as the time went on, it was like getting to be the middle of the night. But I remember off and on, Brian and Robert like being secretive, and it was kind of weird because they like kept wandering off, and then Michelle and Amy, who is their girlfriends, were like, what is going on? What are they talking about? What's happening? And then it was like everybody forgot because we were just having fun, and, you know, everybody was just kind of moving around, and I got pretty drunk, and I was high, and I just wanted to go to bed, and I remember wanting to go to sleep, and they were like, well, just go sleep on the pull-out couch. So, and that was in Ryan's room, and I went in there and pulled the couch out and wanting to go to sleep. But everybody, there were still other people up, and then there was people that were coming to bed about the same time I was, and, you know, it was kind of just everybody was winding down because we were all wasted.
About 3 hours before the murders, at around midnight, something interesting happens. Rick Storhaug tells his girlfriend, Misty, and the others that he will be right back. He says he's just going to take their friend DJ home, and then he'll be right back. He doesn't come back, though. He goes home instead. And, as you will see later, Misty, Brian, and Robert will go looking for Rick. They even knock on his bedroom window at his house and leave him a note at 2:30 a.m. Rick Storhaug does not come out to talk to them, which is probably one of the wisest decisions he ever made. Still to come on future episodes of Dakota Spotlight Season 3, The House on Sweet and 7th.
She was certain that they were coming back for Amy and Michelle, to take them, to go with them.
We ended up over at that house on Sweet Avenue.
After we drove over to this house, everybody just piled out, and there was like a bunch of people getting out.
The license plate runs it through NCIC, and it comes back as a hit that the two people in the pickup are wanted for murder.
Right by the doorway to the hall, and right between Ryan's back of his bed and the doorway of the hall. That's where she told me.
I mean, there were some adults there, and, you know, we all stayed downstairs.
It's like nothing ever happened. He's just normal as can be after that.
If necessary, would you be willing to testify in court about it?
I used to be Misty Jones, but I'm not that girl anymore.
The House on Sweet and 7th is hosted and reported by me, James Woolner. Again, thank you so much for listening to Dakota Spotlight.